Over the 19 years I was in prison, I got to know a lot of people, and I got to know a lot about human nature, my own included. So, in all of those people, whether it was the serial killer, or the Navy SEAL, or the guy who radicalized and joined ISIS, they were all looking for the same basic things. We all wanted safety and we all wanted community. Before anything else, that's what we wanted. And what I saw was the gangbangers found community in people with a common identity and a common purpose. The serial killer couldn't find either, so he expressed his anger and his frustration and his powerlessness outward by destroying something. The Navy SEAL had this really tight, cohesive unit, these people that he trusted, and when he got in trouble, they basically kicked him out. They said they burned the memory of him, so nobody would even speak of him ever again. So he spent a long time looking for identity, and he found that in his religion. He found that in his new life, and was able to admit to the things he'd done and the wrongs that he had committed. So in seeing these people, I saw the extremes they would go to. Like Umar, who declared loyalty to ISIS and was arrested on federal charges after he was released from state prison, he was so desperately looking for community and identity and a purpose and a meaning that he went to some absolute extreme. Like why an American kid growing up in, a decent family in a decent place would join ISIS other than to find community, other than to find some absolute rule of law, something that explains all the untold questions. It just doesn't make sense. So what I saw is we're all looking for those basic things. And I didn't feel safety. Like at first, I didn't feel safety on the street. I was running around with a gun because I was paranoid. I thought everybody was out to get me. I thought everybody wanted what I had. I thought it was a zero-sum game. And if I didn't protect what I had, somebody would take it. And that wasn't the case at all. What I found before, when I was younger, before I got into that, and since I've gotten out, is that people are generally good. And that sometimes the people that we're most afraid of, or the people we think will help the least, will help the most. You know how often I've seen homeless people just give people money? Like, yeah, they're asking for it so you can say they didn't work for it, but they will freely give of what they don't have a lot of, because they say, I don't need anything else, I'm good. I had a roommate named Danny. He was like that. He basically lived as like a homeless juggalo kid on the street, but he would give you anything you needed. If you needed something, he would say, yeah, let me give it to you. Like, how can I help? Because he didn't need anything. He didn't want anything. So when I found we're trying to collect things and create that, so we find our sense of safety in different things. Some people find it in trusting that they're going to be okay, even if they have nothing. Other people try to collect things and make themselves feel more secure. I watch guys with like 30 jars of peanut butter or 100 things of deodorant. I mean, just some insane thing that they're not going to use. It doesn't make any sense, but it makes them feel secure. It's working towards security. But that's also how people get in the obsession that they can never have enough. Like, I always need more. If I had more money, like, I had $1 million, but if I had $1 billion, like, eventually we just have to learn to trust. We have to find a way to do that. And once we've had our need for safety and our need for community met, we have people around us that we feel that we can identify with or understand, we can move on to greater things. So for me, initially, that was art. Like, I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what to do, and I was lost. And there was a tattoo guy who was absolutely amazing. Like, he owned a tattoo shop on the street. He would make his own needles. Most prison tattoo needles are not great. They're just like a single spring stretched out, whatever. This guy would solder like multi-needle sets. He would have 4 needles, 8 needles. Like, he made the most elaborate things. He spent weeks on just setting the rigs up before he even started running. So when his work came out, he put everybody else to shame. I mean, dude was absolutely amazing. And I went to him and said, hey, I really want to learn how to draw. And he was kind of this like grouchy, grumpy old guy, but he was like, yeah, whatever. And I kept drawing and I kept drawing, and I'm sitting in the pot and I was terrible. I had no idea what I was doing. Finally, he saw me, kept showing up over and over and over, and he was like, all right, man, I'm going to help you. Like, let's sit down and do some classes. And so he sat down and gave me basically art classes. I was able to learn. And again, from somebody who, I didn't pay him, I didn't give him anything. He just wanted to share that because he had his basic needs met. He made enough money hustling. He had family on the street, so he wanted to give back. Even if he walked around like a grouchy guy, he wanted to give back, because I think we all do. So I tried art and I did that, and I got fairly good, and I was doing portraits, and I was able to express myself and send people gifts, and that felt really meaningful. But then I wanted to do more, and I saw people learn music, and I saw people write books and do other things, and I found that I wanted to connect with people. And one of the ways I did that was by writing and getting things published and publishing things on a Facebook page, or like doing whatever to kind of build a sense of community, to really expand that base community, but also to give back, to make connections with people. And yet it's so funny because I had no idea that 11 months out of prison I'd be doing a YouTube channel to connect with people and share stories and talk about the world. But I was so grateful to have that because I saw some of the most amazing expressions of human creativity and art and ability, but only based upon that basic safety and community. So those people who didn't have it were scrambling. They were in fight or flight mode. They were not okay. They were not able to do something better. So when they're, asked to give back to the community, they're like, motherfucker, I don't have enough to eat tonight. Like, what are you talking about, give back to the community? And again, it comes back to, if we can meet those basic needs, if we can create a sense of safety and a sense of community, if we can help people bond, that's what works well. So as I'm thinking about, for example, the nonprofit, trying to organize support systems for returning citizens. So I can teach the emotional regulation skills and I can teach the resiliency skills, and I think they're really important. But if I'm somebody outside trying to teach somebody else, that's just like being a kid in school. You're not trying to hear that. Like, I wouldn't try to hear that. Instead, I'm trying to be somebody who says, hey, I've been in your position and I want to understand what you're going through and I want to give you the tools that work for me. And if those don't work for you, I want to find tools that do work for you, because I don't want to see you go back and I don't want to see you lose your temper and do something stupid. And I don't want you to give up and feel a sense of hopelessness and decide it's not worth keeping going. So by doing that together, by building a relational support system, by building something that's about community and creating that sense of community so that all these guys who are getting out can say, hey, this guy next to me understands what I went through. This guy running the class understands what I went through. These people, understand me and have my back. And then in the course of the class, like if we meet for an hour a week, that's not a big deal. But if they have somebody to call during the course of that week to say, hey man, I'm struggling. Like, how do we put these skills into use? Or like, what should I do here? And then when they graduate and they say, okay, I want to give back to the community, maybe they carry that back, but maybe they need a refresher. My point is, this doesn't have to be organized by nonprofits. We could be doing this in prison systems. We could consistently have peer support programs. We could be offering resources. It would not cost any more money. And as a matter of fact, if we could just save a fraction of the people that are getting locked back up and having to be incarcerated, having to be tried, having to go through that whole process again, if we just could save a portion of that, we could pay for all these programs and it would end up saving money in the whole. Because all we have to do is create that safety, community, and then allow people to grow, encourage their growth. The guys that, I talked about the one guy who's an amazing tattoo artist and could do anything on maintenance and could fix anything, he could work on anything, but he got out and he had nothing, right? In prison, he was a big shot. He was the tattoo man. He was the barber. He was this. Everybody liked him. Everybody wanted something from him. He got out and he had nothing. He had nobody. Had nowhere to go. He had no support. So because we're in this American idea of like, well, it's not my responsibility to pay for him. Well, your tax dollars are going to pay to lock him back up, or they could be paying a transitional support system or a halfway house that's actually run by the state. Anything. But instead, we have this mindset of like, it's mine and it's mine. And that was the same mindset that got me to prison. That got most of us to prison. This small-minded, zero-sum game mindset. And if instead of doing that, instead of looking at how I can tear somebody else down to lift myself up, I can say, hey, how can I lift all of us up? How can we come together and make each other stronger and better and safer and more in community? If we can just ask ourselves that question, we can make the world a better place. So this is about returning citizens. This is about preventing crime and public safety. This is also about just being decent human beings. Because it does not cost anything to be kind. It does not cost anything to show up and listen to somebody's story. It does not cost anything to call somebody on their BS, but not call them in a way that you're accusing them, but recognizing, hey, this doesn't make sense. You can do better, and I want to help. If we do that, we've got a good start.